So Payday 3's technical open beta happened, and I know it's more of a stress test, I mean at least that's what they say, than focusing on gameplay or flaws. But with that said, I'm still going to say what I'm looking forward to in the game and what is worrying me about this game from what I've seen so far. And I know people are mixed because there's some group of people that are like, hey, it's a beta, you can't really judge it because it's a beta, things are going to change when the game fully releases. But then again, let's be honest here, it's like a few weeks away from release, and obviously it is a beta, so it's going to be lacking things. But again, it's also 2 weeks, like I think it's like 2 weeks before the game releases, and you're still doing a beta. So if a game does a beta a few weeks before its release, it needs to show off what the game is going to be like. Everyone is going to focus on the beta, because let's be honest here, a lot of the game's betas are pretty much the game, just with less content. I find the gunplay in Payday 3 already to be way better than in Payday 2. As much as I like Payday 2 and I played a lot of Payday 2, I always thought that Payday 2's gun sounds and gun feel were lacking compared to the first Payday game, Payday the Heist. But Payday 3 is stepping it up a little bit, and it is better than 2, but I can't decide if I still like Payday the Heist gun sounds and feel more. I'm not sure what it is, but Payday the Heist just does it very well. I'm not sure if Payday 3 does it better. I'll probably have to play a little bit more to give my full opinion, but you know, let's compare all three of the gun sounds, and you're gonna see that Payday 2 is probably the worst out of the three. Payday 3 might be the best so far, but I don't know.
Every single one of you!
We need to keep the pressure on. Contact! I got our front covered! They're retreating! Got a medic, fellas!
Now, let's also get the obvious out of the way. Payday 3 looks way better than Payday 2, and I think actually Payday the Heist even looked better than Payday 2 in certain areas, which I think is kind of weird. But Payday 3 should also be the best looking one, since it's made in Unreal Engine 5 and it's the newest one, so really there's not much to say there, but I think it does look better. At least it's the best looking Payday game so far. There's also a lock-picking mini game now, so you used to just like start lock picking something, and it was just kind of like a circle, and it would go all the way around. But now it's more of a, it still is kind of the same thing, except for if you stop it just at the right time, it increases the speed of the lock picking, so you can lock pick quicker. It's kind of, well, I mean, it's better because there's actually something to do instead of just sitting there waiting, but it's basically just a quick time action, and it kind of reminds, it's kind of like Dead by Daylight's generator repair mechanics, but you know, it's something simple, but it adds to the experience a little bit. You know, instead of just waiting there, you're doing a little something. There's also a new die pack mechanic. It's kind of interesting that sometimes there'll be die packs on the money and you have to disarm the die packs, otherwise it will die the money and then you lose that money, and you have to be quick if you don't want to lose the money. But then also at the same time with that mechanic, it can probably get a little bit annoying. I can feel it kind of getting annoying after so many times. And also, if you're playing solo, it means you have to try and get all the die packs disarmed by yourself, because the AI never helps you with that, and stopping 8 or more die packs from exploding within like 30 seconds from opening the vault door can sometimes not be possible, and you just won't get all the money, and the AI just, again, doesn't seem to help with that moment. So you definitely have to have a team to be able to disarm all the die packs most of the time, at least. I guess it depends on how many die packs there are. The police, on the other hand, in this game seem to be a bit more intelligent, as they don't instantly run in there. I always wondered why that wasn't in Payday, but it's in Payday now. So like the police show up, but they won't immediately rush in and just start shooting at you like in Payday 2. They'll kind of sit outside if you have hostages, and then you can negotiate and like toss hostages outside of the door, or like free hostages, and the hostages will run out, and then you'll get a little bit extra time before the police assault begins. And the cops, you can also have a hostage, use a hostage as a shield, and then the cops will kind of stop shooting at you. They won't really shoot at you because they don't want to hit the hostage, at least most of the time, because the cops were shooting at me at one time when I had a human shield hostage. Man, this really is not gonna sound good in a YouTube video, but when I had a human shield, most of the time they don't shoot at you, and sometimes they'll try to get behind you and smack you, so you drop the hostage, and then they'll start shooting at you, which is interesting and creates just different, I don't know, it just creates different scenarios that you can get in, and that the AI seems a bit smarter. And also the difficulty, like the difficulty in Payday 2 was kind of based on how many enemies there are. Like you just get swarmed by tons of enemies, and how many special enemies there were, because in Payday 2 it's not really, if it's just basic enemies, the game's not really that difficult. So you need those special enemies, and the more special enemies there were, like dozers, tasers, cloakers, snipers, then the more dangerous and difficult it got. Whereas in Payday 3, there's still like a lot of enemies, and there's also a lot of enemy types, but I feel like it's less on the amount of enemies that you're fighting and the specific enemies that you're fighting. Like dozers in Payday 3 are actually tough to go up against, and like they're actually dangerous, and you gotta watch out for dozers, compared to Payday 2 where you could take out a dozer in a few seconds. But you know, this is just a technical beta, so we're not really going to get into everything since it is a technical beta, and there'll probably be changes when the full game releases, and a lot more to get into when the full game releases, and I'm going to have a whole video on that. But for the most part, I think I actually like the gameplay, and I think the gameplay is improved. Like there's a lot of improvements from the second game from what I played and seen, but we will have to wait for the full game to see everything, and I'm hoping the full release is going to be good. You can only hope it's going to be good, but I have some worries. So I know this is just a technical beta, and I'm probably going to say that multiple times, but the keybinds for me didn't work. They just didn't work. I don't think they work in general, which made it a bit harder to play the game, since certain keybinds, I always change my keybinds every time I open up a game, but the keybinds could only be changed for a few actions and actually work. So like some of them, all of them could be changed technically, but some of them would be changed and just not work. So like crouch, for example. a lot of games put the default crouch to control. Now I absolutely hate control being crouch, so I never use control. I always put C as crouch. So when I went and I changed crouch to C, it changed to C in the menu, but crouch would just not work. So I could not crouch if I remapped it from control. And if I remapped it to C, pressing C would not crouch, and pressing control would not crouch. So there's certain things where you would rebind it, but then it would just not work, period. It wouldn't work with the old keybind or the new one. Like for example, on the keyboard, if you're playing with mouse and keyboard, there's E. If you press E pressing E is to interact by default, or actually I think it's F by default actually, but it's F by default, but I changed it to E. Now usually, you know, no big deal. I like to have E as my interact button, but then there's a keybind to check cameras at E, and you cannot change the key binding to check cameras because it's broken. So every time I would try to go to interact with something, I would open up the camera sometimes instead of actually interacting with that thing. And I know, you know, you might say it's my fault for changing it from F to E, and I should have just put it back on F, but you know, everyone likes to have their keybinds differently. Some people like to have their movement TG FH instead of WASD, or you know, somewhere else, and have different buttons. You know, it's all up to personal preference. That's why they're key bindings, but they just didn't really work, and it made playing the game a bit more frustrating. But I'm 100% sure that that will be not really an issue or a problem when the game's fully released. I just found it very strange that you're gonna have a open beta for everyone to play and stress test the servers and everything. And I know they're like, it's not exactly for people to play and figure out the game and stuff. It's more to just stress test the servers. But let's be honest, people are only playing it because they want to check out and play the game early. You know, like stress testing, yes, but the game has to be functional. Okay, the game has to be playable, and I'm just surprised that key bindings didn't work completely in a beta. It's just weird. It's just kind of weird. Now this one's kind of, people have been getting different results and stuff, but from what I've seen, this game isn't actually that optimized. I know it will probably be a little bit more optimized when it's fully released, or at least I hope so, but the game just seems to be a little unoptimized, as there are freezes, stutters, and times where the GPU isn't getting fully utilized. And when the GPU isn't getting fully utilized, that means it's a CPU bottleneck. So I'm not exactly sure what's going on there, but there are times where the GPU is not at a high percentage, which then lowers the performance of the game. Now there are a few things that I want to talk about that I really hope is improved or changed, though I kind of doubt there's going to be a whole lot of changes when the full game releases to some of this stuff, but it's just things I want improved or changed, and I just don't like compared to Payday 2. And the first being the main menu. I really think the main menu sucks. I think the menus in this game just suck. They're just worse to navigate, and they're just worse than Payday 2's menu, in my opinion. And don't even get me started about the lobby / pre-planning screen, because that's also just as bad, if not even worse than the main menu. Another thing that I don't like about this game, Payday 3, is the new skill trees. I don't know what it is exactly, and I'm gonna have to play the full game when it releases a lot more to give my full opinion on it and everything, but for some reason something just bothers me about this skill tree. It just feels a bit off and kind of bland. I don't that's the best words I can describe it right now. Maybe someone knows exactly what I'm trying to say, but I don't know, something about it just doesn't feel right, and I just don't like it at this moment. Anyways, that's all I'm going to say about this game until it fully releases and we can dive more into it, see all the content that it's got, and do some deeper dives. But until then, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure to hit that like button. I'll leave a comment below. Tell me what you think of Payday 3 so far. And if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you next time.